ولقد ضربنا للناس في هذا القرآن من كل مثل ولئن جئتهم بآية ليقولن الذين كفروا إن أنتم إلا مبطلون كذلك يطبع الله على قلوب الذين لا يعلمون فاصبر إن وعد الله حق ولا يستخفنك الذين لا يوقنون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, and thank you as always for joining the IABA programs, especially in the month of Ramadan, month of barakah and light. We are on the 7th day of Ramadan, and unfortunately we only have Sheikh Jafar for the first half of the month, so inshallah we're going to be benefiting from his time and his knowledge as much as possible. We're continuing with the series on family ethics and foundations, how to raise an Islamic family. And we'll be, inshallah, having another lecture on Sunday, followed by next weekend. So please do your best to at least be here for the weekend programs. With 3 lots of Allahs, please invite Sheikh Jafar to the member, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا له فداء. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Jamia Mu'minin Mu'minat. Again, blessings in this blessed month of Ramadan, and subhanAllah, how this blessed month of barakah, how it goes so quickly that even now we're like 1 week in. As we mentioned, that our topic is on faith, family, and the future, the art of building a righteous household. And at the very beginning, as usual, we'll give one ruling, one fiqh issue regarding family, regarding, again, even that process of developing a family. One of the questions that often comes to the minds of the youth, inshallah we have a few here, but those who are here, inshallah, remember this ruling and take it to others. Those who are adults here also be prepared to share this also with your youth. Because it's a question that comes up, I think, over and over again. Almost every generation they ask this question about friends. Oh, can opposite genders be friends? They say, okay, well, we go to school, it's a public school or in a university, and we're interacting, and so is it possible to have friends? So according to the Quran, according to a hadith of Ahlul Bayt, alayhim afsalatu wasalam, the fatwa of al-Maraji, that no, this is inappropriate. And one of the things that you have to understand, that what is the meaning of friendship versus being friendly? So it doesn't say don't be friendly. No, you must be friendly, you must be kind. But friendship, even when you look up the meaning of friendship, is that someone that you have a close relationship with, someone that, again, you could just go to them, talk to them about anything. Friendship is also someone, okay, I'm going to call this person up. Muhammad Rizvi is like directly in my eyesight. So, hey, Rizvi, hey, let's go out for coffee. Let's go hang out. That's a friendship. Yes, he's a good hang up. So that's a friendship. When you call someone up, you just want to chat, you want to hang out, you want to have fun, that's friendship. This type of relationship between non-mahram, male and female, is not allowed in Islam. On the other hand, yes, when you are at school or you're at work, you've graduated from school, you're working, you have colleagues who are female or male, and you're working on a project. That's fine. you're working on a project because it is work. Now, as long as that working together, or what we call collaboration, doesn't lead to something that where individuals are now having these feelings for each other, now they're calling each other. But as long as it is just normal collaboration, interaction, it's a point of being friendly, there's no issue with that. Because it happens all the time that you may have a team, you may be working with individuals, but it should not lead you into what is haram. And that's idea and concept of this friendship being not permissible in Islam. It doesn't make a difference whether they say, oh, well, the father of a girl, he gave me permission. Okay, I can be your friend. No, this is not allowed. And anyone who is also what they call lawasata, someone who's an intermediate between that, I'm going to introduce this person to that person, so they can become friends. Even if the intention is, they become friends so that eventually they become married. No, this is also not permissible. There's a process of marriage. And it doesn't start with, we're going to become friends and we're talking all night to each other. No, that is not permissible. The way to go about that is that the man, he approaches the family of the woman, or even if they kind of knew each other from college, you could say. But then they take the appropriate steps to go forth to talk to their parents in order to bring about that halal relationship. But it does not start that, we're going to be friends and we're just going to talk, we're going to hang out, we're going to do all of these things without having the proper guidelines in place. So that is with regards to that ruling. And of course, I will just mention this, that also one of the issues that comes about with that, and I've dealt with this before, that sometimes those things will happen. People think, it's okay, we become friends, we talk, we chit-chat, and they do it for some time. And then what happens when they want to get married, because they've become so familiar with each other, what happens, before they even marry, they're arguing as if they're husband and wife. And there's no commitment. So it's, okay, I'm done. Why? Because there's no commitment at that point, and there's friction before even the marriage and wedding. With that, I want to segue into the topic that we will cover tonight within this regards of faith, family, and the future, how to build, or the art of building a righteous household. And that deals with ethics, our akhlaq, our manners. And of course, this is something that, as we look at the statement of the Prophet of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which again cannot be emphasized enough. That he said he was delegated to do what? To bring about the best of ethics. In fact, also in this blessed month of Ramadan, one of the du'as that we are recommended to recite is the dua makarim al-akhlaq. The dua that where we're praying, we're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the best of akhlaq, the best of ethics. Those ethics which I've mentioned before as well, that the true criteria of those ethics is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're simply trying to embody those manners, those ethics, those kindness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ulama of akhlaq, they've kind of divided, in order to kind of understand ethics and what type of ethics we should have in each and every moment, they've kind of divided them into two segments. One is public ethics, and the other is private, or you could say personal ethics. Among those public ethics that everyone should have is to be truthful and to be trustworthy, to be sadiq, ameen. As Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, he said that إن الله عز وجل لم يبعث نبيا إلا بصدق الحديث وأداء الأمانة إلى البر والفاجر. So these are two qualities that every prophet that they had. And they had to have it, especially in dealing with society, dealing with people. And what are those two qualities? To be truthful, بصدق الحديث, and to be among those individuals who fulfill their trust. So if someone entrusts them with something, they feel that trust. And it doesn't make a difference whether that person is a good person, or that person is fajr, that person is a wicked person. You've been entrusted with something, so therefore fulfill that thing which you have been entrusted with. And that's the example that we see, as I said, among all of the Anbiya. Why? Because they are there to guide the entire society. In fact, when those who are at the helm of society don't have these two qualities. And I'll list a third one as well, that Imam Musa Kadhim alayhi wasallam, he mentioned. If they don't have this quality, then you'll see what is the direction of that society. What the direction is that society going in. That third quality that we find among all of the Anbiya, as Imam Musa Kadhim alayhi wasallam, he stated that مَا بَعَثَ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ نَبِيًّا وَلَا وَسِيًّا إِلَّا سَخِيًّا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He did not send a prophet or a wasi, meaning the awliya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the imams, إِلَّا سَخِيًّا, that they were generous individuals. وَمَا كَانَ أَحَدٌ مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ إِلَّا سَخِيًّا. And if we look at those who are righteous themselves, they are sakhi. In other words, they follow that example that they see in the prophets. They follow that example that they see in the imams, Ahlul Bayt alayhim wa afdal salatu wassalam. So that is with regards to general ethics. When it comes to the private and personal ethics, and mashallah, our ulama, we've written many books on this topic as well, the private ethics, our personal ethics that we can have in different areas of our lives. So there's an ethics that we should have within our family. Akhlaqul usra. Or in Farsi we say akhlaq khanavadigi. So that akhlaqul usra, it defines that what is the type of ethics that the members of this household should have. The parents, mother, father, the children, and ethics with one another. Also we find ethics that have been written about in our school. One of the beautiful books as well in that regard is Adab al-Muta'allimin. This is one of the books that sometimes in a hawza, when you go into the hawza, that when we hawza students, they study this book. One of the first books of akhlaq. Adab al-Muta'allimin. What is the akhlaq? What is the ethics of those who are learning? Those who are learning. I'll just give you one example of that, is that a person, if they're going to learn, what are the qualities that they need to at least not have within themselves? Or you can say the quality they should have is humility, and the quality that they should make sure that they don't have is takabbur, arrogance. Because if you're arrogant, you will never learn. Why do you say, oh, hey, I already know everything. Why do I need to sit? Why do I need to learn? Or even study? Or, hey, what is this person saying? I already know this. So a person, in order to have the etiquettes of those who are studying, they have to be humble. And sometimes you find very beautiful examples within our ulama, sometimes our ulama, and these are mujtahideen, not just simply simple word-over scholars, mujtahideen, that they will sit also in the classes of their student, that even when they taught their student and they say, oh, one of their students is like very intelligent, and then their student is getting a class, sometimes they would go and they would sit into the class of their student and listen. What is my student saying? Like, wow, and even learn something from the student. The adab and akhlaq that we should have within our workplace, in travel. In fact, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gives a very beautiful statement about how to know people. He says that if you one of the ways that you want to know a person, he says travel with that person. Why? Because when you travel with that person, then you'll truly understand their akhlaq. That what type of person is this? Because you're on a trip. Sometimes on that trip, you get tired, you get sick. There's so many things that happen. So on that trip, you'll get to know the ethics of that person. The akhlaq, ethics of friendship, medical ethics, political ethics, ethics in warfare, judicial ethics, ethics with regards to the environment. Again, this is interesting. And unfortunately, I don't think this topic is even talked about as much, but the akhlaq, the ethics and the manners that we should have when dealing with the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the earth, water, the sustenance that I have. And I'm not going to go into all of those things, but again, one of the books also called Makarim al-Akhlaq that compiles the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. that his manners and ethics, so that we can at least understand that what is this manner or ethics that we have with regards to the earth. So one of those things is that when we take bread, the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whenever he took bread, he would always break the bread. He said, don't cut the bread with your knife. And why is this? He says it's out of adab, of what happens with this wheat. He says because it is planted by hand. And of course, nowadays we do a bit different, but he says, but the seeds, the wheat is planted by hands, then it's harvested by hands. And then when you take it and you grind it, it's also done by hand. He says, so when the bread is made, he says, and it comes to your table, he says, now you want to take a knife and you want to chop it? He says, no. He says, the etiquette, the adab is what? To also take that bread and to break it with your hand and then eat it. This is part of the adab of dealing with the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from that very beginning of the product to the very end. Also, the adab that we have with regards to the animals. And this is another area which sometimes it's not even thought about, it's not even fathomed. What? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala requires us even to have an adab and an akhlaq with the hayawanat. Yes. Some of the ulama, they've written books, Kitab al-Hayawan, the book of animals. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about the jahiz? So what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about the animals in the Quran, in the hadith of Ahlul Bayt, how you deal with them, what animals, but yes, there's certain animals that perhaps they pose a danger. And either you move away from it, or if they're close, you may have to actually kill that animal in order to save your life. But that's not the primary thing that you do. If you're able to move away, then you move away. And this is also the adab of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali bin Abi Talib, alayhi salatu wasalam. That if there is some bug or something going, he would capture it and he would toss it out. He wouldn't immediately just gonna smack this animal with a fly. And of course, today we've invented fly swats. We've invented the lights that the bugs are gonna come and poof, it's gonna just take care of them. But there was an adab that we deal with, based on a hadith of Ahlul Bayt, with animals. I'll give you one interesting story about this adab. That even we see this among the animals themselves, this type of interaction and a type of akhlaq and type of adab. One of the ulama was a student at the time. We were in Qom. We were good friends. We would go and I would sit with him sometimes and eat with him. So he gave me this one story before. It's a personal story that, again, he was a part of the Intifada in Iraq against the government of Saddam. And he was captured. He was in prison. Actually, when he escaped from prison, this is how he got to Iran and became a student in the Hawza. But he was imprisoned for father. And so he was there, and again, not knowing the expectation of what his life was, would he be killed. So one day he was eating, it was just a little bit of food that they would give, and it was, he had some bread. He said as one piece of the bread he was going to eat, it fell on the floor. And so he said that when it fell on the floor, the floor is kind of really, it wasn't very clean. So where it fell, it was close to this ant. So this ant came and saw it. But the piece of bread was so big, this ant couldn't move it himself. He tried. So what happened, he says this ant went, and because there was ants marching along the wall, he says this ant went to the other ants. And I guess he was communicating with them. Then a group of ants started to come. And so he was watching this. He was like, wow, subhanAllah. They're communicating. So he picked up the piece of bread. He said, let me see what happens. So he picks up the piece of bread. He says, and this ant, he goes to the place where the bread was, and it's not there. Then the other ants, they kind of gather around and they communicate. And then they leave, but he stays. He starts searching around, so he puts the bread back down in the same spot. The ant sees the bread again. Again, he can't move it himself. He goes back to the group of ants, and they, again, a group of them come, and so he picks up the bread again, and he's just seeing it, like, what will happen? What is this interaction between these animals? So he does it second time. This guy stays again. The others go. He does it a third time. And this is when he became a little bit sad about what happened. He said because the third time he did it, when the other groups of ants came out to see that where that bread was, and it wasn't there, the other ants surrounded this one ant and pulled it apart. They kind of grabbed it and pulled them apart. And he was like, oh my God. He was like, for that he's like, Ya Allah, forgive me. I didn't know that this was going to happen. Because, again, he lost that baby trust, or even perhaps set back that group of ants, because, again, when the ants are gathering, they're gathering for what? For the winter, for the future. And so he created this delay, this ant created this delay, actually the guy created this delay, and now the ants, they were like, no, this is it. Perhaps that is the rule among them, that when this happens, that person is, or that ant is taken apart. And so he actually asked Allah to forgive him for that. He was like, but subhanallah, just to see that what is the interaction, what is the adab, what is the akhlaq. And of course, as human beings, when we study in logic, they say, what is human beings? Al-hayawan al-natiq. That we're supposed to be on a higher intellectual plane than what? Than the ants, than any of the animals. In fact, we're supposed to be on the highest intellectual plane than any other creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that means that when we are interacting with one another, our akhlaq, our adab, should be even higher than that of these ants, higher than any other creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But unfortunately, sometimes we find that this is not the case. And when that's not the case, when we don't observe that adab and we don't observe that akhlaq that we should have within our families, it creates that disruption in the family. And I said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has brought about this union, and He's created this, you say, family structure, male and female, as it says, min ayatihi, and khalaqa min anfusikum azwaja, that it is from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's created for you among yourselves spouses. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ, and He created between love and rahmah and mercy. That love and mercy, in fact, as some of the ulama, they stated that the sign of that love is rahmah, the mercy that is shown between husband and wife, that mercy, that rahmah that is also shown between the spouses, their parents, and their children. And of course, within, again, each individual has their role to play, but of course, one of those, as also some of the ulama of akhlaq, they say, and they point to this, they say this is one of the secrets of why the mother, she has a rahm. That the baby is born in what? A rahm. It's born in this womb, which that womb is considered a place of mercy, a rahmah. So they say that within the household, it is that mother who also plays a very pivotal and critical role in creating that atmosphere of rahmah and of mercy and of love within the household. Doesn't mean that the husbands are off the hook. No. You also have to have, why? Because Allah says, min ayatihi. This is a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that this type of union, this type of relationship has been created. And of course, the worst of relationships, the worst of that relationship, as the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he states that if it breaks apart, I'll share with you one of these hadith, which is in Wasa'il al-Shia, ما من شيء أحب إلى الله عز وجل من بيت يأمر بالنكاح وما من شيء أبغض إلى الله عز وجل من بيت يخرب في الإسلام بالفرقة, meaning talaq. That the most beloved thing in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that house that is built with regards to this union between man and wife. And of course, built in also the proper way. And the most hated or disliked thing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that household that has been destroyed, al-furqa, that has been taken apart in Islam, that has led to talaq, has led to divorce. And sometimes you may see that, okay, maybe a household is not, that divorce didn't happen. But does it mean that the household is completely salim, completely okay? Those ethics and those adabs, that akhlaq, it must be observed. وَمَا مِن شَيْءٍ, as Imam Sadiq says, وَمَا مِن شَيْءٍ مِمَّا أَحَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ أَبَّغَضُ إِلَيْهِ مِنَ الطَّلَاقِ. And talaq is something that's halal, as Imam Sadiq ﷺ stated, but it is one of those things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes. Just in the very end, our time is almost up. I just want to share just a part of the khutbah of Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salatu wasalam. And this khutbah, again, it's longer, I'm just going to share just a short part of it. And this is a khutbah that Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salatu wasalam, that he would recite before the wedding. As I mentioned, that the etiquette, or at least what is mustahab, that before the act is recited, a few verses of the Quran, Surah Al-Waqi'ah, you can recite that, recite Surah Al-Waqi'ah, and then after that, the one who is performing the marriage also gives a khutbah. In other words, words of advice for the husband and wife to be, bride and groom. And so this is what Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salatu that he states. Very interesting. Again, just a part of it. So one part where he says, لو لم تكن في المناكحة والمصاهرة آية منزلة ولا سنة متبعة لكان ما جعل الله فيه من بر القريب وتألف البعيد ما رغب فيه العاقل اللبيب وسار إليه الموفق المصيب. Very interesting. Yes, one who understands this in Arabic, there's a laugh with it. It says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, in this union of man and wife, of marriage, He's revealed ayat of the Quran. And subhanAllah, the ayat of the Quran, what does He say? That is a place of mawadda and rahmah. It's a place where you see the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Within the sunnah of Rasulullah, there's so many words about this marriage, about this union. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you know what? So if we are left to our own intellect, al-aql, not a divine intellect which is connected to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated, not that divine intellect which is connected to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this Ahlul Bayt, he says that, because we have to understand this aqil and labib that he says that if it weren't for these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in the Quran, in His revelation, and in the Sunnah of Rasulullah and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal, whereby you will see that al-birr al-qareeb, that that you will have those who are righteous, who are close to each other, meaning, for example, you may have a close family friend, parents of family or friends, then one has a daughter, one has a son, they bring these two individuals together, or even families that they bring those two individuals together, or mu'allaf al-ba'id, or maybe there's no real relationship between the individuals, but there becomes a relationship. Why? Because these two families, they didn't know each other from before, but their children want to engage in that halal relationship of marriage. He said, if it wasn't for those ayat, if it wasn't for that sunnah of Rasulullah, he says that ma raghiba fihi al-aqil al-labib, that the one who has intellect, in other words, they are relying on their own calculation, which I said in the beginning, those who think that, we should be single, that's okay. He says ma raghiba fihi al-aqil al-labib. If you really relied on your own intellect, you say, no, I don't want to get into this. It's too much work. I'm good by myself. I don't need the headache, the pain. But of course, in that headache and the pain, and this is where those ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes in. This is where the ahadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal come in. Yes, in that headache and in that pain, in that difficulty, there's growth. There's spirituality. If we really understood that difficulty. In other words, as we mentioned, jihadul akbar, a great struggle, a great task before us in order to keep the family together, to hold on to those ethics and those principles of that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lays out in the Quran, that akhlaq of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if we relied upon that, no one would go towards it, no one would rush towards it. وَمَا سَارَعَ إِلَيْهِ الْمُوَفِّقُ الْمُصِيبُ. And that person who thinks that they're successful, they wouldn't rush towards it. I'm good. Then he says, and he makes this dua, he says, نحن نسأل الله, this is another section, نحن نسأل الله تعالى أن يعزم لنا ولكم على أوفق الأمور. على أوفق الأمور. That the most, or you can say that thing which you can do in your life that would bring about success is what? To engage in that sunnah of Rasulullah. To engage in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He sent forth with regards to marriage is أوفق الأمور. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the strength and give us guidance to engage in that. And he says, and here's where he points out the akhlaq of the groom and the bride. And what is that akhlaq? What are those qualities that the bride and groom they should have? He says, وَإِنَّ فَلَانْ إِبْنُ فَلَانْ, meaning the groom, the husband to be. He says, مَنْ قَدْ عَرَفْتُمْ مُرُوءَتَهُ وَعَقْلَهُ وَصَلَاحَهُ وَنِيَّتَهُ وَفَضْلَهُ. And he is someone that you knew of his chivalry, muru'ah. That chivalry, that muru'ah here also comes in the meaning of ghira. That's someone who will protect his family, someone who will protect his wife. And of course, that ghira is for the man to have, not for the woman to have. If we name it in terms of ghira. Muru'ah also comes in the meaning of, kindness, being human. But here, the muru'ah meaning that ghira. So that man, he has what? Muru'ah. That he is someone who is going to protect his family, someone who's going to protect and look over them. But his aql, his intellect, he should be someone who's rational, not someone who's irrational. Inshallah, we're not going to get into it today, but sometimes a person thinks that, this is a ghira, this is me protecting my family, which it goes outside the true context of having that ghira or being chivalrous. وَصَلَاحُهُ, his righteousness, and his intentions, niyatuhu, his pure intentions. In the dua al-mukarram al-akhlaq, this is one of the things that we ask for. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to correct our intentions, to make our intentions pure. So that this individual, the groom, that he has those good intentions, وَفَضْلَهُ, and his nobleness. That قَدْ أَحَبَّ بِشِرْكَتِكُمْ, and so he wanted, he desired to be a part of this family, to bring these two families together. وَخَطَبَ كَرِيمَتُكُمْ. Imam Rida alayhi wasallam, he gives one sifa for the woman, the bride, karima. But this karima, if you understand that, what is this karima? Karimatul ahlul bayt. I can just give you this one example. So who is karimatul ahlul bayt? Fatima Ma'suma salamun alayhi. Allahumma salli Muhammad. Within the riwayat of Ahlul Bayt, this is who Imam Rida is the brother of Hazrat Fatima Ma'suma. So what better sifat to give than this one sifa, karimatukum. And Fatima Ma'suma, she was called Karimata Ahlul Bayt, that yes, have those qualities of Fatima Ma'suma, which yes, it encompasses in those sifat that were mentioned for the male, because Fatima Ma'suma, at her time, there was no other woman who had that intellect of Fatima Ma'suma. And this is why Imam Rida alayhi wasallam, he called her to come to Khurasan. He says that in the Bayt al-Hikmah, in this house of wisdom that was established by Rashid al-Abbasi, but brought to his peak by Ma'mun, he says, there are discussions. He says, of course, Imam Rida, he's engaging in those discussions. He says, but there are also women who engage in intellectual discussions. So Fatima, come and be a part of that. So that karimatukum, again, means a woman who is intellectual, she's understanding, she's kind, she is noble. And of course, not having that quality of having a ghira, because as Imam Ali and also many rawayat says that this is the quality that the husband should have, but not the wife. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He guides us and to have these noble characters and traits within our families, and that we instill them also in our future generations. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطاهرين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن وليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائي في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتع فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم